Okay, check, check, check. Test it all. Is it working? Looks like it. I am seeing things going. I am seeing nice strong record buttons. I am seeing no dropped frames. I'm seeing between 4 and 5 kilobits per second. All right, I assume we're going. How's everyone doing today? Yes, this is the last live stream for December. This is for supporters, so if you go to Patreon, Subscribestar, or Discord, sign up at $3 or more, then you can come join me here in the voice chat. Otherwise, we can have fun in the chat, either on YouTube, Odyssey, or Rumble. I see Fizzy P is in there already, and he says, I feel like I traveled back in time a whole month. Anyone else get that feeling? Maybe because this was already there before the live stream started, so he may still have been seeing the previous month because it's weird that way. Oh, I think this might be misaligned for some reason. I don't move that up. Ah, Mr. No is doing okay. All right, good to see you, Mr. No. And when I posted this date and time in the live stream, I had both Nobody and Fun with Facts give a thumbs up to it, so hopefully they'll be joining us. I don't think Chris will be joining us because he's had to work a lot, and so I don't think he's able to get off. But I am trying to change the times up a little more to see if we have people coming in. And you've probably noticed, no, my voice is not great today because of the weather and just, oh man, we had really bad storms blow through here. I think they're gone now. I think the storms are gone, but I was kind of worried about whether we'd have power today because I have really crappy power here and storms do tend to knock the power out, or whenever when someone walks by the transformer and sneezes. It's a co-op, it's how they are. And no, I am not on camera either because I'm not really in a, I probably look about as good as I sound. It's actually not that bad for temperature today. After the storms blew through, it got up into the 60s. But it's still like 97% humidity. And the barometric pressure is less than 30 inches, so that makes it very much not fun for people with chronic pain. And then all the stuff that blew through here. I actually sound better than our daughter, our youngest. She got really sick last week, ran a fever, and lost her voice entirely, and her voice still hasn't completely come back, so we'll see how it is. I think I'll be good for the next couple hours, though, as long as y'all are willing to work with me here. Let's see. Are we up on Rumble? Yes, we've got Fighting Zen there. In Rumble, do you remember the TV show Monsters? I don't think I saw that. He's posting links and further proof that spanking is counterproductive, baleful, and dangerous. Yes, peaceful parenting is the way to go. I agree with that. Right, so until we get some other people in, I just want to see what I was looking at. Because, you know, I read the news today, oh boy. This is local, this is in Charlotte. And a Charlotte police officer shot and killed a man for having a gun outside Coyote Joe's. And that's the only thing they said. He just had a gun. He was in possession of a gun. And this is like breaking. There's like very few updates on this yet. And a lot we don't know. We don't know if the officer was on duty or off. The Charlotte Observer initially said he was off duty, and then they changed that to say they didn't know. But yeah, outside Coyote Joe's on Wilkinson Boulevard. That's a bad part of town, Wilkinson. Because what they're saying is the man may have been trying to harm himself. Wow. Okay. So the man may have been trying to harm himself, and so the solution is to shoot and kill him. Yeah. That's wonderful. Way to go. This was about 11 p.m. last night. An officer perceived an imminent deadly threat, whatever that means, And the usual passive voice and everything. Officer is on paid administrative leave. They have not identified the officer. The officer was taken to the hospital as a precaution to check his vital signs. Oh, it must be so stressful shooting people. Because they're not saying anything about the guy was shooting back or anything like that. Just he had a gun outside Coyote Joe's. That's the only thing they said. There have been prior incidents this year of deadly force by police. In May, a Pineville sergeant fatally shot an unarmed man after a shoplifting call. They say the man was suffering a mental health crisis. In Gaston County, they shot and killed a man with a machete who had been stabbing himself in the arm. So yeah, he's harming himself, so the solution is to shoot and kill him. Yeah, so that's interesting. All right, is the chat frozen already? I got one from Mr. No, and now nothing else is happening. Hang on. Reload that. Nope. Okay, let's look at Zen. Zen says, I don't know if you want to take on Snot Slime. If you mean thought, yeah. Yeah, no. If it's the guy I'm thinking about, no. I've done him before, and it's just completely toxic, and he jumped on me, and he sent a mob to me, and it was not a fun thing. But he doesn't understand which in democracy, which last time I checked means mob rule. Indeed it does. Keep in mind, I am no fan of PragerU and Dinesh D'Souza, neither am I. But the Founding Fathers detested democracy for a reason. That is absolutely true. Housing, healthcare, banking, sewage, flood control, and road construction and maintenance should be left to the free market. I agree with that as well. If Africa has taught me anything, it is that socialism is bad for the environment. Oh, not just Africa. I mean, look at the Soviet Union. Their entire lakes that were drained. Aside from that one that is so radioactive, there's a lake in the former Soviet Union. It's so radioactive that if you stand on its shore for half an hour, you get a fatal dose just by standing there. That and the only sure way to save endangered species is private property rights. Friendly reminder that Tom Homan used to work for Barack Obama. I'm not sure who Tom Homan is. Louis Town of the CCP's greatest hits. Again, I'll be copying all of these and just taking a look at them when I'm done. Oh, wait, I got a few of these pasted in. I don't always have time to go through them, but they're there. Dorothy Moxley just died. I don't know who that is either. RFK Jr. tried to defend his cousin, Michael Skakel, when he killed her daughter. Another person you can blame RFK Jr. for is Barack Obama. Is there any truth to what Obama's brother George said that he was born in Kenya? No, that's just a rumor. That was taken care of long ago. That was sorted out. And Mr. No says France is the birthplace of socialism. Political checkmate. What are best states to live in as entrepreneur and libertarian? I haven't been that impressed with New Hampshire lately because they made all this thing about how, yeah, we're going to be, the free state, and now they seem to have been taken over at least by bordertarians, if not, the Republicans. Not MAGA, I don't think, but yeah, a lot of libertarians are saying Texas, but I don't know. With the Republicans in charge of Texas have not been very libertarian. What about Tennessee? I think, is it sales tax or income tax that Tennessee doesn't have? I think it might be income tax. Some states don't have income tax. Some states don't have sales tax. I think New Hampshire is the only one that doesn't have either one. But yeah, if you're looking for taxes, North Carolina might not be your best bet. Oh my God, it's the end of the year. I got to pay my taxes on my house, and that's going to be $2,000 that I got to scrape out of somewhere. Because this is what they do. My county, oh yeah, they're all Republicans. They're all good Republicans. They don't raise taxes. They'd never raise taxes, honey. But what they do is when they do the appraisals, they juice it up. They got my house being something like $350,000. My house is not worth $350,000. I can tell you that right now. But they do that to say, hey, we haven't raised taxes, but they can still get more tax money coming in. Because it's not revenue neutral. When they do the reappraisal and they reappraise things, they don't adjust the tax rate to make it revenue neutral. So it ends up being a surreptitious tax increase. Thoughts on Doge? I mean, we'll see. I'll give it a chance. But I'm not predicting much. Yeah, that's the kind of thing. The Republicans are just as tax and spend as Democrats are. And at least we've got Elon Musk out there. Elon has apparently been watching some videos from Milton Friedman talking about how the actual tax that you pay is total spending. And I've made this point several times before. If government spends dollars, they got to get those dollars from somewhere. Where are they getting them from? Oh, it's free money. They just created it out of thin air. No, it doesn't work that way. That's the total amount that you pay, regardless of deficits or anything else. The total amount of government spending is what people pay in taxes. And I'm seeing multiple plane crashes in the news. South Korea, and there was another one. Where was it where they were blaming Russia? It was down on Christmas Day. Azerbaijan. That's it. MAGA fans are turning on him because of his comments about skilled workers, migrants. Yeah, that's about that. Whatever it is, H-1B or HB1 or whatever it is. But that's where you can actually get like skilled engineers and everything. Elon Musk, I don't think he got in as an HB1 originally, but he at least stayed in as one. And he said that so many people at Tesla and even SpaceX, and people were saying, no, not SpaceX because they can't be immigrants. Well, yes, they can once they become citizens. So if they come in here on an HB1, H1B, whatever it is, if they come in here on that and then, build up their reputation and their work history, and then they get their citizenship, then after that, they can go and work for SpaceX. And he said there are so many people at Tesla and SpaceX that you just would not have if it weren't for that. That if you're going to get rid of that, what did he say? It was something like, it will be a war the likes of which you cannot imagine or something like that. He was really adamant about it. That sounds like a hill he's going to die on. What made you interested in math? I got interested in other things, and the math was necessary for those interests. That's really what it was. It wasn't like an interest in math as an abstract, not at first anyway. I got interested more in math as an abstract when I kind of realized that it just kind of works, You just make these predictions based on math, and it's amazing how right you are. This was decades ago. I think I was in college. They were talking about all the stuff they can do in forensics, and they had found the body of a young girl, and it was like in water, and she was like completely decayed. But they could get things like her hair color and things like that, but they couldn't really tell what she looked like. But they had her skull, and so what they did was they took the skull to an expert to flesh it out and to see what the girl would have actually looked like. And they were going over, like she was talking about, not in depth. It was just a documentary like on Discovery Channel or something like that. You know, back when it was good. But she was putting these little like spacers on it and doing all the calculations to build up the flesh around it the way it would be. And she got to the nose. And she was doing all of the math and the geometry and everything to figure out what the nose. And the nose was going to be this huge honker. This big schnoz. This one that just seems like so cartoonishly unrealistic that you wouldn't think that anyone would actually have a nose like that. And so she had a decision to make. Does she make a more normal sounding nose like her intuition said? Or does she stick with the math and make the schnoz? She decided to stick with the math and made the schnoz. And so they did that. And again, they knew the hair color and about how long her hair was. So they put a wig on it and did all the things. And they took the picture of it and posted it and put it in the newspaper. And when they saw it, the couple who had lost their daughter, who was missing, they had no idea where she was, recognized her instantly because the nose was exactly right. And because of that, the parents were able to get an answer on what happened to their little girl. She was like 16 years old, I think 15, 16. She was murdered. And they were actually able to find out about that and get closure on them because of that's just one of the amazing things that math can do. And it's a tragedy that they lost her, but at least they got answers as to what it was. Would you rather have 100% socialist or Christian country? Oh my God. Would I rather have, colon cancer or adrenal cancer? That's what you're asking me there. Yeesh. How do I answer? I don't know. Depends on which denomination of Christians, really. Hello, Ghost Dog. How you doing? All right. Zen is posting Red Khmer and Chavismo apologist getting his face smashed in by Thomas Sowell. History around the Khmer Rouge. Louisiana has both income and sales taxes. Yeah, so does North Carolina. Engaging in questionable math just to raise our property taxes. Yep, know exactly how you feel there, Zen. Know exactly how you feel. Because like even in, the 2008 crisis, the housing crash and everything, everyone's home values were going down. In Lincoln County, all the home values went up. It's amazing. How did that happen? It's because they wanted tax money. Musk, Ramaswamy, and Gabbard are the least evil of Trump's staff picks. Yeah, I think Tulsi Gabbard is going to be good for foreign policy at least. Just keep her away from the economy. More worried about Stephen Miller, RFK Jr., J.D. Vance, David Weldon, Pete Hegseth, Paula White, and the rest of the neocon warmongers. Yeah. He could be doing better picks. Florida's answer to Andrew Wakefield to take over the CDC. North Carolina goes drug war on prostitution. I haven't seen that one. That one's on Reason. Enough of the criminalization of sex work. Stop listening to morality media, Julie Bendel, etc. Louisiana has a Christian socialist problem. Just look up the Landros, Huey Long, Edwin Edwards, Jeff Landry, and the Memorials. Yeah, when you have Christian socialism, that's like the 1-2 punch. Any truth to Michelle Obama being trans? I don't think so. I think that's mostly a meme, and some people are taking it seriously. Not all elders should be respected. Yeah, so respect has to be earned. You respect individuals based on their own individual characteristics, not because of their age or their station in life or anything else. Like a Catholic, somebody like Tom Woods. Well, I wouldn't mind Tom Woods. If it's a libertarian like Tom Woods, that'd be fine. But I don't think most Catholics are like Tom Woods. Certainly not historically. Definitely not in the Middle Ages. I don't know about the current incarnation of the Catholic Church. They still seem pretty bad in a lot of places. But there's a huge diversity in Catholicism, the way it's practiced all over the world, and even just all over the country. It's not as monolithic as a lot of people think. Thoughts on RFK Jr. promoting 12-step program in NA on the topic of opioids. I haven't heard him speak on opioids, but the 12-step program is pseudoscience. It does not work. You fix addiction by fixing the underlying cause of it. And as long as you do that, then you can manage, if not completely cure, the addiction. My favorite illustration of this is the soldiers in Vietnam. There was a big problem with soldiers there getting addicted to heroin. I mean, addiction is a problem in vets anyway, because they see combat, they get PTSD, or even a lot of the training can just give you PTSD. But absent that, otherwise mentally healthy soldiers were getting majorly addicted to heroin in Vietnam. They came back, and guess what? They weren't addicted to heroin anymore. You get them out of that environment, and then they're fine. And then some of them would sign up for another tour of duty or something, go back over to Vietnam, get addicted again, come back home, not be addicted anymore. Because in their case, the cause of the addiction was the environment that they were in. You checked out the Political Checkmate? Yes, I like your channel. Everyone go look at the Political Checkmate and subscribe to his channel. Yes, I am a subscriber. Yeah, there's a lot of Robert Reich to debunk. There is just too much. I've still got to figure out who the idiot of the year is for, and I'll announce that when the episode comes out. It'll come out on Saturday for supporters and Sunday for everyone else. But Reich is definitely in the running. I mean, he's got a lot of competition. He's got Joe Biden. He's got the news media. He's got some competition. I don't know who I'm going to give it to, but Reich is definitely in the running. Thoughts on the Nobel Prize of Economics at today's state? I'm not sure what you mean by today's state, and I haven't seen this year's. I don't really keep up on that. I think it's interesting, a lot of the people who winning the Nobel Prize, even in a harder science, like, God, what are the others? Is there a physics? There's something like that, physics or astronomy or something like that, for the harder science. That doesn't necessarily mean that they got it right. It just means that they made a significant contribution that either caught on with a lot of people or overturned something that a lot of people believed. And I think it's interesting, something like 7 different times The Nobel Prize of Economics was given to people who had disproven the Phillips curve. That's the one that says you can't have rising inflation and rising unemployment at the same time. Because normally that would just happen once. And then they're like, all right, I guess the Phillips curve is bogus, isn't it? We won't use the Phillips curve anymore. Nope, not in economics. They still using it all over the place. And they still giving out Nobel Prizes to people who debunk it. Do you respect the prize, or is it overrated? It's probably overrated. The Peace Prize is definitely overrated. When you can give it to Al Gore, Barack Obama, who hadn't even done anything yet, and then ended up, being a warmonger with a secret kill list and a fleet of flying killer robots. Going back to Henry Kissinger, or even further than that, some of the people they gave it to. Yeah. Tom Lehrer did some time as a political satirist. He's a mathematician primarily, but he did some time doing political satire, and he said that's just competition that is very difficult to meet, is Henry Kissinger getting the Nobel Peace Prize. The mainstream view on Austrian business cycle theory, it's not as bad as you might think it is. At least not from what I've seen. Yes, if you're specifically looking at like socialists or the modern day mercantilists or whatever, they don't like it. But the more mainstream scientists, they don't really accept it, but they're looking at this like, yeah, there's a lot of use in here. There's a lot of good points they make. So it's not like, it's not as fringe an idea as everyone pretends it to be. Yeah, they think it has some value. Like I said, they don't accept it, completely wholeheartedly. It really depends on who you're talking about, though. Like, it has a lot more respect with the Chicago monetarists. And not so much with the, well, I was going to say not so much with the Fed monetarists, but it really depends. Because again, there have been a couple of them saying, yeah, we think they have a point about how bubbles end up getting going. And so maybe you want to be a little more careful about how you create money and how you put it in the economy. I'm trying to drink water here. I'm muting myself while I drink, but I'm getting, mouth noises. Sorry about that. I try to cut down on those because I don't like them myself. Which economist do you wish Trump would pick as economic advisor? Tom Woods, Walter Block, Bob Murphy, Scott Horton, Mark Thornton. You know the crowd. Yeah, any of those. Any of those. Oh, what do we have over on Zen? I bet the political checkmate would have a field day with Lamar White Jr. Okay, so political checkmate, Fighting Zen has some recommendations for you over here in the Rumble chat. Lamar White Jr., the Morials, Edwin Edwards, Nagin, Cantrell, Jeff Landry, and Laurie Schlegel. Why Islam won't survive the 20th century? That is a bold claim. I might have to watch that one. Idi Amin was the butcher in jail. Oh, I remember that guy. I remember him being in the news. How come no game company outside of Taito has used him for a basis of a villain? Oh, I'm not a gamer, so I can't say. Obama belongs. I think they all belong in prison myself. Another reason to loathe Ken Paxton, a.k.a. the Deng Xiaoping of Texas. No one's joining me in voice yet, so if you ever wanted to get on voice with me, now's a good time. Just $3 at Patreon subscribes to our Discord. I'm looking at news, but it's mostly this winter storm we got going through. It's clear right now. The sun actually came out. I think we're going to get another wave, though. But hopefully we'll keep the power on for the remainder of the live stream. Washington Post said Trump backs H-1B visas, aligning with Musk on immigration. Vermin Supreme. He's awesome. Oh, God. So much of the mainstream media is just useless. You just go through one useless headline after another. Vermin Supreme isn't fake the way that Bernie Sanders is. Vermin Supreme, you know what Vermin Supreme is. Two Oregon men die from exposure in a forest after they went out to look for Sasquatch. Wow. I didn't know people were still taking that seriously. That's from the Los Angeles Times. Fox News has it too. People and WKRC in Cincinnati. The CRA is trying to enforce the capital gains tax increase before the designated date. And Parliament is seized because of the SDTC scandal. Which country are you talking about there? Oh, this is funny. Ajit Pai, the one that's the, darling of so many others. He took on Huawei and stuff for this. He says that he tells the Supreme Court that there's precedent for the TikTok ban. Under Bayes' theorem, what percentage would you give your likelihood of becoming statist or Christian? Not enough information. Remember, Bayes, you got to start with the priors, which I guess would be the percentage of the population wherever you live that's statist or Christian. But then you'd have to go in to look at the likelihood ratios of the things that particular person has gone through. America would have been better if Ron Paul was president in 2008, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I had a couple of problems with Ron Paul, but he was mostly very good. Oh my God, not perfect, but oh my God, the difference he would have made. Even if he didn't have Congress on his side going for him. Ron Paul wouldn't have lived to 2009. Who knows? Who knows? I doubt he could implement most of his ideas. Well, Barack Obama did a lot of it without Congress. Oh, you won't pass my Jobs Act? Okay, I'll just pass it as executive orders. Thoughts on Javier Milei? I think he's proving to be the real deal. I don't know if he's 100% ANCAP, but man. That's because he likely had political backing. Well, also, Ron Paul was principled, and he probably wouldn't have done it just on that basis. He should have really hired a better person to manage his newsletter. You are correct, sir. I mean, if your name is going to be on something. Ron Paul versus Javier Milei. I'd pick Milei. Oh, talking about Obama, not Paul. Yeah. Yeah, Obama had political backing for his executive orders. And Ron Paul would have had a fight not just with Congress, but with the deep state. Man, the tussle that Trump had with them would have been nothing compared to the absolute war they would have had with Ron Paul. The so-called civil servants, the public sector, yes. Edward Snowden's book, Permanent Record, has a very good description of this and how it works. You don't like the term the deep state, you can call it, the public sector or whatever. But he said, regardless of what you call it, here's how it operates. And he just laid it down plainly and logically to the point where I don't see how anyone can deny it. Oh, let's look at Rumble again. The debate between Scott Horton and Niall Ferguson. I don't know who Niall Ferguson is. Fads on Greek 6-day work week. And countries in decline that would be better off stateless. Louisiana would have been better off if T. Lee Horn III, never heard of him, were elected governor in 2007. I'm sure you can do that everywhere. You can go in all sorts of states and say, yeah, if that person had been elected governor, things would have been a lot better off. I like Ron Paul, and I think he could have won if he had a better funding base for poll primary watchdogs. He was stunted in Maine in one county after they stopped counting for reasons. Yeah, that's what you keep running into. This whole thing, like what you see, the corruption in like Maricopa County and those other counties that were just, trying to delay just because they were trying to make the results come out as favorable to them as they could. That's been going on for decades. That's not something that just happened because of Trump. That's been going on. That's typical. That's typical. What are your thoughts on Rand Paul? Not anywhere near as good as his dad. Because I think if he were, not just with the principles behind what he did, but also just with being the force of nature that Ron Paul was, as 1/435th of the House, senators can actually do a lot. I mean, if you look at things like people like Chuck Schumer and the things that they're able to do, if Rand Paul not only had the principles of his father, but the cojones to really put himself forward and take the risks, then he could do that. Yeah, Stossel's pretty based, yeah. I haven't heard his take on the Colorado governor. Oh, finally AT&T got their network cleared after Salt Typhoon. Oh my God. Yes, can we please have strong encryption now? Oh, the FBI walked that back. Those of you who listen to the podcast know what I'm talking about. Why do you live in North Carolina? It's just where I live. It's where I have land. I had family land, so I know everything here. I'm established here. New York Post: Biden regrets leaving presidential race. Thinks he could have beaten Trump. Yeah. Candace Owens for press secretary. I don't like Candace Owens. The Center for Immigration Studies and its parent group, FAIR, that's Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, have been exaggerating immigrant crime, welfare dependency, etc. for decades. If they were serious, they would be demanding that the welfare state being phased out and war on drugs being terminated. Absolutely 100% agree. Churches fight to stay open as attendance dwindles. What if they gave a religion and nobody came? Oh, it looks like that's mostly talking about Catholic churches. Janet Yellen says the U.S. could hit the debt limit in weeks. Yeah. Because that's what they do. Kentucky police kill a man after serving a warrant to the wrong home. How many times have we seen that headline? Republicans condemn welfare, but also keep it in the pocket for a boost in support under support the elders. Yeah, they don't really mean it. Why even bother with limits when you can just print more money? More money, more money, more money. They won't have to print if they move to digital. It'll just be a keystroke. Oh, they did that long ago. They did that long ago. So little of our money is in paper form. Who is the strongest when you're debunking a left winger or a Christian? Strong as it takes time to think of a response. It's more individualized than that. It doesn't categorize well. You know, most of them are just like the same old, same old, same old, same old, same old. And occasionally you get one that's like, oh, okay, I'm going to have to do a little research on that. Even if I know it's BS, explaining why it's BS. is the thing. I just did a Lord Killian video, by the way. It should be up on Tuesday for everyone else, but it's already up for supporters. But yeah, it's that same kind of idea. There was something on there that I just never talked about before, and I was like, wait a minute, how would that work? So he makes one comment, and I spend like 3 minutes examining it to its limit. That's fun. Who are you debunking? It's the same guy that got all bent out of shape because women were wearing cross necklaces because it was drawing attention to their boobies. Same guy. He changed his name. He's like the Christian Pill now. And before he was Bible verses that would save you. But yeah. Yeah, I'm punching down. I always said never to punch down. And then there were just so many videos I wish I had done that I gave up on doing because there was punching down. So I just started punching down. I'm just having fun. What video? The video was called, hang on. Christian way to desexualize your brain. Because sex is bad and porn is bad and every sperm is sacred. Every sperm is sacred. Yeah, it's even dumber than it sounds. Pam Bondi is the same as Janet Reno. Yeah, probably. Inflation benefits the elites at the cost of everyone else. Something Hal Kolinsky, Rebecca Watson, etc. don't get. Yep, they do not get. I actually tried schooling Rebecca Watson on that. And by definition, we have no dollars in circulation. What do you mean by that? I'm not sure what you mean by definition. There's not like actual physical things being moved around because most of the currency is just locked away somewhere. Adam something, water should have remained the dominant energy source. Me, can you move a river? Yeah, I mean, how are you going to do that in the middle of a desert? Thoughts on American Psycho? I watch it and it doesn't seem as anti-capitalist as I thought it would be. It has been so long since I saw that movie. I'd have to watch it again to be able to see. Although Heather and I just did finish watching the original Star Trek. The 3 seasons of the original series. She hadn't seen them before and she loved them. And the thing is, everyone talks about how socialist Star Trek is. When you look at the original series in isolation, as it would have been at the time, without any of the retconning or everything else that like Next Gen and all the others did, it's actually not that socialist. In fact, they did a few things that were, extremely anti-socialist. Of course, it was during the Cold War. Oh, as defined in the Coinage Act of 1792, yeah, there's no gold or silver. Yeah. Yeah, you are absolutely correct about that. And in the Constitution, the states are prohibited from making anything but gold or silver coin a tender for payment of debts, and you see how much they follow that. Now, this is something, I keep making this because it's such a good point, and you just see how people shut down. When you make this point, they're talking about like the fight for $15 minimum wage or whatever. I have to look it up right now to see. But like in 1964, minimum wage was $1.25. And if you had taken your $1.25 in quarters, I think those 5 quarters would have been like 3/4 of an ounce of silver or something like that. Don't quote me on that. Let's see. Precious metals, gold and silver by the ounce. Silver's at $29.45 an ounce right now. So yeah, that'd probably be 20, 25 bucks. Making your minimum wage job, having the purchasing power of $20 to $25 in today's money. It's not companies that stole it from you. It's not corporations that stole it from you. It's government in inflation. Rothbard suggested units of weights rather than national names, yeah. Advice on going to college on political expectations as conservative libertarian. If you can afford to go to a private college, I had a much better experience at St. Andrews than I did at UNCG. All right, current melt value of a 1964 quarter would be $5.49. Okay, so $5.49 times 5. $27.45. Imagine starting out unskilled, making $27 an hour. That's what they've taken from us just since 1965. With economics, I mean, check out their economics department. See what their favorite. You're probably, for the most part, going to get monetarism. If you go to a taxpayer supported college, you might get something that's more socialist. But in private colleges, you're probably going to get more monetarists. Silver quarter buys a gallon of gas today. Oh, more than that, because gas is like, what is it at my wife's store? It's like around $3. I think it might be under $3 right now. I'm not sure, because the thing has gone down after Christmas, and it'll go down some more after New Year's. I think it's around $3. And what did I just say the melt value was? $5.49. But yeah, a quarter. You see all like those old pictures of all those old gas pumps? And you even have like paintings from people like Norman Rockwell of those where they were just, painting just regular life in general. And they'd paint it, and the price of the gas would be like 20 cents, 25 cents. And you're like, man, what happened to those days? Well, inflation happened. That's what happened. How'd you get introduced to libertarianism? Slowly and over a long period of time. I was always a voracious reader, reading above my grade level, and drawn to science fiction. I think it was probably primarily Heinlein that got me there, but science fiction literature has always had a strong libertarian bent to it. And just like getting into astronomy, I think, is kind of like going from there into science fiction and from there into libertarianism. Monetarist, like monetary, Monetarist. Yeah, if you're thinking of modern monetary theory, that's a totally different thing. Perkins and Jennifer Bowen tried to call psychedelics demonic. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. Adam, something more like Adam Knows Nothing. I think for the most part, most of his shows were like 2/3 correct. And there'd be like a third of it that he did better than most. He didn't do as good as like Penn and Teller did in bullshit. What are your thoughts on the Oklahoma City bombing conspiracy theory? I'm not really sure which one you're talking about. And I'm not sure what you're talking about with Scott Horton. So paste the link. I'll see if I can get to it eventually. That's just what I do with Fighting Zen at the end of, after I stop the live stream, I just go and just select everything that he posted, copy and paste it into a text editor, and I get through it. Thoughts on 9/11 conspiracy theories? I really missed this website because I put a lot of work into it. It was, what was it, skeptic.org? It was the Skeptic Wiki. And I wasn't the only one. There were a lot of people who were contributing. This was like 2007, 2008. But I did the basic layout and format and everything, and tons of sources for the 9/11 conspiracy theories. And I was really proud of that. And it should still be there on archive.org, but yeah, lots of crappy things. It was Rational Wiki who killed it. Long story short. They bought it, killed it, and then sold it on to someone else, and then it became like the website for a realtor. How does skeptic.com or skeptic.org or what? How does that come with a realtor? I don't know what it is now, but yeah, it's dead, and it's sad. I don't see how the TikTok ban can stand economically. I don't know. Maybe I'll see what Ajit Pai has to say about it. He says it's fine. Yeah, he said a lot of things are fine. What states will stay conservative for Democrat for decades and states that say Democrat? Interesting question, because people don't really get it. The perception that people have of this stuff is not the way it is. My parents got married in 1959, bought their house in 1960, here in this little rural county in North Carolina, on the family land. They have always been conservative Republicans. But back then, in North Carolina, you could not get a Republican elected for love nor money. So they registered Democrat because if you didn't vote in the Democratic primary, you had no say in who was getting elected, because it was going to be the Democrat. I think it was 2010 was the first year in North Carolina history that Republicans got control of both houses in the state legislature. That's how late it was. Everyone's thinking like, oh, North Carolina is all those Republicans, and the Republicans for decades are Republicans. No, that's been the Democrats doing that crap. Yeah, so it's weird. I think 9/11 may have a weird level scheme of, okay, maybe they knew before it happened, to the towers are hologram. Yeah, and as usual, the crazy ones end up kind of discrediting the ones that, hey, maybe this is something we do want to look into. Because there was an attempt to try and it was just an attempt to make a timeline of the 9/11 attacks. And was it done by the 9/11 Commission or some sort of subcommittee, or I forget who it was? They weren't trying to lay blame or anything. They were just trying to make a timeline of it, which is basically what you do. You know, you're a cop, you're a detective, you find out there's a murder. What's the first thing you do? You try to establish a timeline. This was when the victim died. Okay, well, what was the victim doing before then, and what were their movements, and then what else was happening before and what was happening after? This happened at this time, and then this happened, and then this happened. Basic thing. That's all they were trying to do, and they just hit one roadblock after another. Because government went completely into cover their ass mode, as they do. Now, it's just what they do. You can't really assume that just because they're covering their ass, that means they were doing something wrong, because that's their normal mode. That's just how they behave. But still, it does make it difficult to get to the truth on things. Since North Carolina and Georgia look like flipping, and Minnesota and New Jersey flipping conservatives, North Carolina is not flipping conservative. This whole state is conservative. What you have are some very powerful, very corrupt actors in the Charlotte area, in the Triangle, and to a lesser extent, the Triad, Elizabeth City, Asheville. But the urban areas, the built-up areas, the cities, the high-density areas. And they're leveraging their positions there through the rest of the state. Just like they're doing in Virginia. Everyone say, oh, Virginia looks like they're becoming a blue state. No, they're not. You've just got Arlington and Richmond. Kind of forcing that way through everything. Because even in the Republican Party, man, the establishment Republicans, they are urban. They are not rural. They are urban. And that's why you had things like, we got the handgun permit last year. We got the handgun permit taken down in the state legislature, and they repealed that. And they're like, okay, what about constitutional carry? And the Republican speaker was like, nah, that's enough of your rights for now. You don't need that many rights. We'll just give you a little bit of rights. You don't need that many. Thoughts on John Lott and Freakonomics abortion claims. I don't know what John Lott has said about abortions, but Freakonomics, I think what you might be talking about, because people are wondering what the hell happened in the 1990s. Because crime, from the 60s to the 90s, crime was going up. And then 90s on, crime's been going down. And yes, the overall trend is crime for still going down. People are like, crime's going up. Well, you look at these little blips, and yeah, you can see blips where it's going up. Overall, it's been going down. And the question is, why? And so the Freakonomics guys thought that maybe what it was that the people who were getting abortions that were now legal were people who were in poor areas, heavy urban areas, areas where there was a lot of crime. And since you just had fewer people, that would result in the crime rates going down. And they got attacked for it, and there was a lot of controversy about it. But what no one ever did was debunk it. So I don't know, because people are also saying, like the crack cocaine thing had a lot to do with it. I don't know. There's no consensus on that. Oh, your state has handgun purchase permits? Not anymore. They took that down. We did win on that one. Oh, John Lott has critiqued it. Okay. I haven't seen what he said. John Lott researching guns. I mean, he's done some good research. He's just not... I wish he were a person of more integrity. I'm just going to say that. And I mean, what we see from other people like Gary Kleck is kind of the same thing. Millions, like 2 million times a year, there's a defense of gun use. I was reading about one just last week that happened in Charlotte. If you're looking for it, you can find it. But they're not going to tell you about it on CNN and MSNBC. But they're going to tell you about, every single shooting, where there's more than a couple people killed. What do you mean integrity on John Lott? Well, just to give you one example. There was, back when he had published, I forget what it was, but one of his analyses of the effects of different state laws on concealed carry permits. And I forget where it was, but there was some kind of chat on it. I think it might have been before social media. I don't remember. But anyway, there was this one woman who was coming through and defending it and say, no, you got this wrong. No, you got that wrong. Turned out it was John Lott doing a bit of catfishing. So if he just posted it as himself, it would have been fine. But, trying to pretend to be someone else. I guess more of a sock puppet than a catfish. But yeah, she was a sock puppet. She was Lott. She was really Lott. Georgetown study puts it in 1.7 million. Yeah. It usually ends up being 1.1 to 3 million unless you do something like, because the ones they like to look at and say, see, it's only 200,000. Okay, first of all, don't say only with 200,000. That's still 200,000. But that's also when they didn't ask the question of everyone. They only asked the question of a certain subset and kind of through that with the math, without saying it directly, implied that with everyone else it would have been zero. That sort of thing. At least even in gun control states, the LTC usually acts as both a purchase permit and a carry permit. It's still bad though, yeah. What's wrong with that since you're an avatar? I mean, it's not a good look. It's not a good look at all. And I mean, to actually be the author, trying to pretend that there's someone else other than the author supporting the author. Yeah, that's not good. Now, as far as his data is concerned, his data seems to be sound. Like I said, I just wish it was coming from someone with a little bit better integrity. The North Carolina permit laws from Jim Crow era. Oh, absolutely. Yes. And that's what people were pointing out at the time. Because the Democrats were all like, oh my God, how could they do with that? That means that people are going to shit up our schools. And I'm like, that's a Jim Crow law, right? Yeah, that wasn't a good look for them either. Supporting a Jim Crow law. Of course, pretty much all gun control is Jim Crow. Pretty much all of it. Because I think I've pretty much established that the Democrats haven't moved on from their eugenicist roots. And the very basis of their policies being eugenics. They're just better at hiding it. Sullivan Act was against Italians and Western Europeans, yeah. A lot of stuff was done against the Irish. A lot of stuff was done against Germans. People try to boil it down as simple like black versus white. It was not that simple. It was not in any way that simple. Whatever happened with AMCAP tombs? Yeah, you mean Libertoons. Yeah, it seems like Dapperton and I are the only ones doing it now. Which kind of makes it difficult. Which is why there aren't that many of them. It's just whenever one of us has an idea. Hey, we could do this silly thing for Libertoons. Like Mickey Mouse goes public domain. We'll do a Libertoon. I haven't looked for Public Domain 2025. What's going on Public Domain Day? Because that's just in a few days. I usually do that for the first regular Bogosity podcast, but we'll just see what's quick search. Oh, Ernest Hemingway's Farewell to Arms. All Quiet on the Western Front. Ooh, Magritte's Treachery of Images officially becomes PD. Salvador Dali's The Great Masturbator. Silent films from 1929, including works from Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton. music from 1929, including Putting on the Ritz and Singing in the Rain. Ooh, we can sing Putting on the Ritz now. And I'll do a little more comprehensive on the podcast, but oh, The Coconuts, the Marx Brothers film. Popeye the Sailor Man. Popeye's going to be public domain. Are we going to see a horror movie with Popeye the Sailor Man like we did with Mickey Mouse and Winnie the Pooh? Tarzan, An American in Paris, Rhapsody in Blue, Ain't Misbehavin'. Just kind of scanning through to see what stands out. Showboat. And mostly just more stuff, more Mickey Mouse cartoons, more Charlie Chaplin, more Buster Keaton. All right, yeah, that's a quick rundown. Herbert Spencer invented eugenics and had a chart of the races. Not even close. Yeah, that's been going on for thousands of years. He didn't invent it. What he actually came up with is actually kind of more kinder and gentler than most of the other forms of eugenics. It was Galton. You mean Francis Galton? Galton was a big eugenicist. Galton's the guy who figured out fingerprints, that they were unique. How would movies and TV shows make money without copyright? How did Shakespeare plays make money without copyright? Because he couldn't copyright his plays back then. How did Beethoven make money without copyrights? Because in Germany at the time, music could not be copyrighted. How did novels made before, like the 1870s, survive without copyright? How do you make money? You make money giving people stuff that they like. How would ANCAP society do the military, and what stops other military groups from invading? The military would basically be a militia. What stops them from invading? The same thing that stopped Japan from invading in World War II, because those people in that country, they have guns. And even if you can get through the army, what happens then? You got to subjugate the population. You go around kicking down doors. You have no idea if the person on the other side of that door is going to have a gun aimed right at you. There were performances you have to pay for watch rather than today with recording. But yeah, it's just the mindset behind it. The mindset is all wrong because they've set up the industry with that ownership mindset. So like before, what you had was you would have a patron. And the patron would say, so-and-so, write a symphony or write something for a string quintet or whatever. And then they'd hire them to do that, and then it would go from there to the rest of the world. That's one way of doing it. And another way is just, I think just changing your focus from I wrote a book, now give me money because I wrote it, to I wrote a book, now give me money so I can write another one. It's just a matter of shifting your mindset. The U.S. couldn't conquer Afghanistan. True. Or Iraq, or Vietnam. People also like going to see a play in person. Yeah. Wicked made a ton of money before it was a movie. The USSR couldn't either. Yeah. You are correct, sir. Oh, let me check out Rumble again. Okay, I think I'm going to have to scroll up for Zen. Sorry, Zen. Hang on a second. I get back to that window and scroll up again. We're talking about nuclear families, I think. Oh, I went way too far up. Eric July and Seamus Coughlin about how the nuclear family is a rare family form throughout most of human history. Yeah, that's true. Extended families, or one man and multiple women. Yeah, and that was what you had, especially in rural areas in farming country. You needed someone, so you'd have grandma and grandpa, and you'd have the kids, and you'd have their kids, and you'd have the cousins all living together in one big house because they all worked to maintain the household and maintain the farm and everything else. Multi-spouse marriages should be allowed. I agree. Just stop trying to prevent that, making them so expensive to have much of a legal liability. Long as everyone's a consenting adult. The Skeptic Wiki was awesome. Too bad it got replaced by the Wretchworthy Rational Wiki. Yeah, Rational Wiki had been around. Skeptic Wiki was in large part a response to how bad Rational Wiki was. December 2023 AMA on restitution hit the nail on the head. Yeah, I'm not going to remember what I said off the top of my head. Makes more sense than keeping Racist Joe and Grand Dragon Thurman's legacies alive. Yep. JFK's brother Robert wanted to engage in a false flag against the U.S. consulate. Yep, just to invade Cuba. Yep. And there was another one when JFK was in office. They wanted to do one against Florida. Louisiana politicians can be described as socially conservative, fiscally irresponsible. Yeah. I like what Professor Lotta said on guns, but he supports Joe Biden's disgusting crime policies such as cash bail. Yep. USSR was collapsing by that time anyways. Yeah, but I mean, they couldn't. Yeah, it was always struggling. It was always struggling. It's just a matter of how well it could do that. Rome and the list unscrolls to 20 feet. Yep, that's a lot. Yeah. Yep. 3 people died from the weather in Texas and Mississippi. It wasn't that bad here, but I think that's because of the way we're situated. We're situated in a place where a lot of the bad storms and tornadoes and everything kind of get broken up. So we'll get storms, we'll get bad winds, we'll get stuff like that. But we generally don't get the tornadoes. On a little bit higher elevation so we don't get flooding. What is a good economic book you saw this year? I haven't really seen economic books this year. Nothing that really stood out. Tornado warnings have expired across the Charlotte region. Okay, I think the storms might be through here, so yeah. Power won't be a problem for me then. Reagan spinning the USSR can be explained more as that contributed and a lot of accelerating factors, but it was going to happen unless they liberalized, but eventually ethnic breakoffs. Yeah, I think you're talking about the idea that Reagan kind of forced the USSR to outspin themselves, but they were doing that anyway. I don't know how much of a difference he made. Tens of thousands without power. It's looked like I'm one of the lucky ones. Oh, God. See, this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. Tesla Cybertruck owner in Canada says the truck is dangerous. Experiencing first drive in the snow, he had to slow down to 25 miles per hour. What the hell are you doing wanting to go more than 25 miles per hour when it's snowing? That's just dumb. This is dangerous because it can't drive fast in the snow. None of them can drive fast in the snow. Well, maybe a snowmobile, but. Oh, God. Forbes, generative AI might cause us to lose our grasp on human language. Shut up. The Guardian, is societal collapse inevitable? Yeah, whatever. In your worldview, what happens when you die? The rest of the universe goes on. Only government will brag about outspending another country, yeah. You ever notice that's exactly what they do with healthcare? Our government spent more per capita or percent GDP or whatever than the US on healthcare. And that's something to brag about? And nothing more from Finding Zen either. We're starting to peter out. We got another 35 minutes. Still nobody has popped on to join me. What happens if your mind, would you say it would go pure black? It wouldn't be black. Black is a sensation. You're dead. You're not having any sensations. You wouldn't experience blackness because you wouldn't experience anything because you're dead. If you find that hard to grasp, if you find that hard to wrap your head around, ask yourself, what did you experience? What did you personally experience 1,000 years ago? Well, that's your answer. Come on, there has to be something decent going on in the news. Oh my God, more about seed oils. I mean, look, I am fine with McDonald's going back to beef tallow, if that's what they want to do, but let's just think about seed oils. Any oil has aspects of it that are healthy and aspects of it that are unhealthy. It's all about the balance. It's all about your individual needs. So, how do you emotionally handle with that thought out of curiosity? I don't see that there's anything to handle. I just focus on my life as I live it, however much of it I'm able to have, which hopefully is a lot. I wouldn't at all mind if they cracked immortality while I'm still alive, so I can see all the amazing things that are going to happen in the next century, in the century after, in the century after. But, as is quite probable, if I'm to just turn to dust like everyone else, well, I won't be around to notice a problem, will I? Yeah. I mean, how I'm going to die is a thing. Like, I don't want to lie around suffering with cancer, because that's not good. That's not a good way to go. Things like that. But too bad we don't live long as alligators or sea turtles or whatever. Animals that live for centuries. But look, lives are being extended all the time. Life expectancy is now 80. What happens when you get to 80 and then the life expectancy is 100? What would happen then if by the time you got to 100, it was 120? Then you got to 120, it was 150, and so on. And you just kept riding that wave. I think that's kind of what the first generation of immortals is going to be. And maybe not completely. There'll probably be plateaus for various different reasons. Who knows what happens to the human body when it reaches 200? Who knows what kind of weird diseases and conditions you might get at that point. But I think it's going to happen. Maybe not in my lifetime. I'd really like for it to, but maybe not. But at some point, one of these centuries, we'll start to crack it. I don't know, maybe abolishing the FDA and the CDC would be a good start to that. Because if you had an immortality pill, how would you get it past FDA testing? That's an interesting thought experiment. You've made the world's first anti-agathic. How do you get it past FDA testing? Prove it works. Okay, we gave it to a bunch of people and they didn't die. Okay. Isn't that what you always do? Have you ever lost passion for a hobby? Talking about chess. I started getting into chess in high school. And I got out of it when I realized that it wasn't what I thought it was. I was thinking, like it was about thinking on your feet and developing new strategies as they go, instead of what so many of them were doing, were just memorizing strategies. Oh, you have to do this and this strategy. Oh no, that's when you would switch over to the such and such gambit. It's like, is all you're doing memorizing sequences of moves and just playing them in? Because that's really what it looked like. I always thought you could improve the game no end by randomizing the start position of the pieces, so that no two games would be the same. They kind of proved, though, that that's exactly what's happened when they trained. Was it Alpha Chess? It was one of the AIs. And they did this with chess. They did this with Go. And they did this with a couple others. But like with chess, before with the AIs, they were just training it on human games. And then it was learning to play chess like a human and doing really well. With this one, what they did was total reinforcement learning from the start. They just had it start knowing nothing, playing against itself. And of course, it did that very badly. But then over time, it learned something like 4 hours of that training. And they surpassed the best chess playing AI. And then they did it, I think, for another 12 or 16 hours. And then they unleashed it on the chess masters. And oh my God, it was blowing them away. It was like, why did you make that move? That move's absurd. Why did you make it? No one in their right mind would make that move. And then all of a sudden they got trashed. It's like, wow, this thing is coming up with whole new strategies. And they're all excited about it because now they're learning totally different ways of playing chess. Because that was the only thing they learned. Was about, just memorizing the gambits, learning of that, and that kind of sticks you into a local optimum. And that's what had happened. I guess I felt like competing chess is emotionally stressful. That brings on the next question. How do you handle stupid and rude comments? You got to keep them in perspective. Some of them you ignore. Some of them you slam back 10 times harder. I got a reputation for always slamming back. I don't. Like probably 95% of them I just let go. It's just the one that I slam back on get the attention. Which is the point. Which is exactly the point. But you got to keep your perspective. If you're doing this and you start losing perspective, you could so easily get into a downward spiral. I've heard that happening with YouTubers. And they're like, I just have to get out of here. I just have to get off of this. I just have to shut off all my social media. Yeah, no problem. That's why I'm here. That's why we do these live streams. Yeah, always keep it in perspective. Always remember what you're doing. Because you're not building a nuclear reactor that might, fail and endanger a lot of people. You're making YouTube videos. Which religion would you say as in the most probable, as in the most likely? None of them? I'm tempted to say Kami-chan. I don't even really know what Kami-chan is. On the Lord Killian Discord, there's a user who keeps posting these praises to Kami-chan. And Kami-chan is like this anime girl dressed as a Shintoist shrine maiden, but in front of a Christian stained glass. And Kami-chan is the one true God. Okay, fine with me. We'll go with that one. I mean, just based on the prior probability, none of them even have that. And so when you start examining the evidence, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. You need a really big likelihood ratio to kind of get it above that so that your religion can have credibility. And you can either do that by having this, massive blowout piece of evidence, or you can have a bunch of smaller pieces of evidence, all with likelihood ratios greater than 1, but you multiply them together. And then they're this massive amount. If anything, it goes the other way. It just always goes the other way. Every time we get something we can grab a hold of, every time we get something we can examine, every time we get something we can test, every time we get something that we can make testable predictions about, it fails. So yeah, not a good sign. People should really stop. AI will kill photography. Like digital photography will kill film photography. Film is doing fine. It's a niche. Yeah, and they're completely different skill sets. They really are. Photographers had to learn how to do digital photography. Because, yeah, a lot of the concepts carry over. But there's different techniques that you're doing with digital photography than you're doing with film. And it's just a different medium. Digital photography killed the necessity of doing film photography. But it didn't kill the film itself. Which religion, if evidence is height, what would be the tallest dwarf of the group in religion? I don't know. It's hard to say, because none of them really have anything. I mean, there's no evidence for any kind of afterlife. There's no evidence for any kind of God. There's no evidence for any kind of miracle. So what are you really looking for? Are you looking at converts? Well, there's converts all over the place. Christians become atheists. Atheists become Christians. Christians become Muslims. Muslims become Christians. Muslims become atheists. Atheists become Buddhists. Can't really tell anything from that. AI art is a danger to art as much as cinema is to plays. Yeah, this is probably a good analogy. Hey, why would they go see actors do it live when the actors can just do it once? Or television to cinema. Why should people go to the movies when they can watch it at home on TV? The cinemas big time fought large screen and widescreen television because they thought that if people had 60-inch, 16 by 9 televisions, that they wouldn't want to go to the movies anymore. Well, no, people still want to go to the movies. They don't have to go to the movie to see it. They can watch it at home, but they still often do. I agree with the majority of the video of converting does not prove. Not sure what you're saying there, Checkmate. Widescreen is interesting how it was invented. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting technology there. But I think the main thing is it just took off because a widescreen view fits your field of view better than a more squared frame. And certainly more than a vertical frame. That's why so many people don't like vertical video. Because it's you're like looking through this slit in the wall. Whereas some people didn't like letterboxing because the TVs back then were so low resolution. but it was actually harder to see stuff. But a lot of people liked it because, again, it fits your field of view a lot better. Paul converting has value because he didn't benefit as much? How do you say he didn't benefit as much? Man, he made out like a bandit after he converted. He figured out his scam would work a lot better if he converted than if he kept on doing what he was doing. I've come to terms with vertical, but it hurts my eyes. I mean, if you're just kind of holding your phone in your hand, I'm trying to demonstrate it and I remember my camera's not on. But you're holding your phone in your hand and you're holding it vertically and you want to see something. Okay, yeah, it makes a little more sense in that context. It's generally the idea, have it fit whatever screen you're going to put it on. But they adjust the screen for TV, but not the audio? What do you mean not the audio? Now, it's kind of interesting, though, that they standardized on 16 by 9, and now they're doing lots of other things that aren't 16 by 9. Netflix wants you to do a 2-to-1, which I guess they see as a happy medium between that and the wider screens. 235-to-1, I kind of find is a little too wide. I've kind of landed for filmmaking on a 222-to-1. I don't think that's really standard, but it does make it nicely divisible by 16, which is good for a lot of encoding stuff. The audio for the dialogue. Yeah, I still don't know what you're talking about. I think just in general, dialogue for movies, as far as the audio is concerned, has gotten horrible. Because you can watch an older movie and you can understand every single word that everyone says. Nowadays, even in like a close-up, and you're seeing someone on the screen, they say something, they're saying, blah, 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 and you're like, what was that? It's like they're kind of relying a little too much on the microphone to clear it up, but then not actually clearing it up. Yeah, dialogue should be fairly constant. If you can get the dialogue at like minus 18 loofs or something like that, and just keep it at that level, and people are like, well, what about when people are yelling and then it's really dramatic? And then what about when people are lowering their voice? Well, if you just heard, I just did both of those things and the sound levels were the same. Why? Because when I yell, I back away from the microphone. And when I talk slowly, I move closer to it. Or I can juice it up on the mixer. Either one. But it's how you say it that makes the difference between yelling and speaking quietly. But you can still mix it at the same level. Because your ears adjust for these things anyway. If you're out at a loud place where there's a lot of people and there's a lot of talking and people are talking loud, your ears adjust for that. Then you go to a quiet place, your ears adjust for that. It's just like your eyes adjusting for light. You know, you go to a bright room and your pupils constrict. Then you go into a dark room, your pupils dilate. And you adjust. Yeah, just have it simulate that. You're in a quieter environment. And you can simulate that with the ambient background noise. Just have it coming up a little bit and get more of a sense of I'm in a quiet room. And so even if the person is talking at the same volume level, if they're delivering their lines lower, then you'll still get that overall sense of it being quieter. I watched Valkyrie with Tom Cruise. Great film, but the mixing is awful. The audio when they're speaking is quiet like a mouse. Yeah, dialogue is so important. Mix your dialogue properly. Dialogue from movie to TV is awful. A lot of TVs just have bad speakers. Never use the speakers built into a TV. Buy a sound bar or something. What do you do to Lord Killian voice if it exhausts you? Basically, like an herbal tea and put in ginger and honey. That'll kind of soothe it. I have to turn up the volume to hear the dialogue and lower it when there's other noise. Yeah, and that's also why they say more and more today, people are watching movies with subtitles turned on. Because you can't understand what these people are saying. I mean, it used to be because it was just cheap, like you watch 70s Doctor Who. And it's good. But then, you kind of have to strain to listen whenever someone wanders a little too far from the microphone because the microphones weren't very great. Movies now tend to make the dialogue very quiet while the background noise is louder. Yeah, that's not a good way to do it. Why is Lord Killian voice generally more anger, other than calm and polite? Just to kind of make it over the top. Just so people won't take it quite so seriously. Because even when you look at my earlier video responses, they would just be, the things they would try to say about me, about my obvious mental illness and things like that. So you can't really say that when I'm doing a Lord Killian voice, because it's obvious I'm doing a voice. And then when they do that, which they still do, it just makes them look like an idiot. Communication theory of property, I find it superior than labor theory of property. I'm not sure what they're talking about there. You communicate on how property is given and where it starts and ended like a fence. Oh, you mean like homesteading? I've never heard it called communication theory. Oh, I've been ignoring Zen. Okay, it doesn't look like it. I think all that's what he said before. I'm going to double check that. Because I was scrolling. See, I see it scrolling. Now it's scrolling. There we are. Okay. There are some other things. Sorry about that, Zen. Hang on. Oh yeah, I can't go back that far. I missed a bunch. Too bad Christopher Hitchens is dead. He and Frank Zappa would have annihilated Jeff Landry in a debate. Yeah, they were great. There's no such thing as private prisons. Yes, that is correct. Plenty of socialist communists who openly hated gays, lesbians, bisexuals, etc. Yeah, Che Guevara. Perfect example. But do people still wear pictures of Che on their shirts and everything? Oh, that was... Yeah, you mentioned Guevara, Hitler, Himmler, Stalin, Brezhnev, Mao, Pol Pot, etc. Phyllis Schlafly was pro-censorship. She absolutely was. Excellent job with Bill Natwell. AI songs. For me to do one, it takes a certain inspiration. Because learning of how the AI works, it really only works with a certain kind of idea. And the idea just has to conform just like right that way. Yeah, not just how dialogue is written, but mixed as well, yeah. Criticism I have with labor theory of property is, what about unused land you want to unuse because you like it? Well, yeah, that's the problem people have with Locke's first use ideas. What if you want a nature preserve? You know, you're not using it, but you still want to have it for that. Thoughts on Rothbard's solution on pollution versus Friedman's? Generally, I go with Rothbard's. Just make it a property rights thing. Friedman, bless his heart, I mean, he tried. he was like, yeah, let's just have a computer figure it out, or have a mathematical formula to do it. Yeah, but who gets to make the mathematical formula? Do you lose that property if someone trespasses and does work on it? Well, you shouldn't. And the whole point of a nature preserve is that you should be able to stop people from doing that. Yeah, I'm looking through headlines again. Useless, useless, useless. I like Friedman, but I always felt he could identify a problem but couldn't come up with a consistent proposal to solve it. Yeah. Oh, now it's norovirus, I guess. Because bird flu failed after monkeypox failed. There was that other one they stuck in there. Now they're saying norovirus. I recall a response to Kant on deontology. What if a killer wants to know a location of their victim? Do you lie in this scenario? Yes. Yes, just as you can use force to defend someone, you can use a lie to defend someone. Yeah, I've done videos on virtue ethics. I'm not a fan. I am Mr. Deontology. Maybe not a 100% Kantian deontologist, but I think I made the good case for it. I've never understood the we create reality with our minds. I guess it all depends on the context you're talking about there. Because I've covered a lot of things that just give people the wrong idea about reality. Because they put a little too much stock in how they perceive and see things. I mean, like a basic idea is color. There really is no such thing as color outside of human perception or the perception of other animals. It's just different wavelengths of light. Now, those wavelengths are there. They are real. Yeah, deontology. Yeah, I've got videos on that. But the fact is, getting back to the create reality with our minds, we live in a chaotic, probabilistic, noisy world. And most of the sense data that we get in, most of it we don't even get in as sense data. Only a tiny amount of the visible spectrum, only a tiny amount of sound do we get in, things like that. But even at that, we get in so much noise that our brain works to filter it out. So we're only experiencing just this tiny portion of what the universe around us really is. Just because our brain's trying to make sense of it. But that's why when you're getting really into the nitty-gritty with a lot of these scientific theories like quantum mechanics, that's why they seem so weird. That's why they seem so bizarre. They're not weird and bizarre. We're weird and bizarre. Quantum mechanics is normal. That's how it works. Like the Hegelianity of two realities. Yeah. Yeah, it's not the case that we perceive things and that actually changes the reality outside what we perceive. Our perception is completely passive. This is where people get like the wrong idea about quantum mechanics. Like they're just trying to put it into some kind of words because it goes into no kind of words because we don't have the words for something like that. But they'll say things like, okay, you observe the particle and then it goes from being a wave to being a particle. Or whatever. It goes from being here to there. It goes from going through this slit to going through that slit, or having this spin to that spin when you observe the particle. It's not about you observing the particle. People get that idea. Oh, you have to have an intelligent being looking at it. No. You observe things because they're interacting with other particles. You see something because photons are interacting with it. And some of those photons go into your eye. It's passive. It's the photons that are doing the observing. Or it could be electrons or any other particle. But yeah, people kind of get stuck on this idea that somehow we observe something and then that changes. No, not really. We believe in Jesus mythicism, not in any way. I think there probably was a historical Jesus because those stories popped up a little too soon for there not to be at least someone they were based around, but no, none of the miracles or anything. We've got 1 minute left. I think we got 30 seconds left. All right, last chance, everyone. Get your chats in before we finish it up for 2024. Let me see what Zen has to say. People on both sides won't acknowledge that there's plenty of socialists and communists who, okay, I read that one, Pol Pot and all those. Not just how dialogue is written, but mixed as well. Am I scrolled down on that? Okay. One more thing I'd like to say, adopt, don't shop. Don't make the mistake my mom did when she got a puppy. Yes, never get a puppy from a puppy mill. Go to a rescue center or go to any place. Like most pet stores will have, like occasionally one day out of the week or something, they'll have pets that are being brought in that you can look to adopt. By pet store, I don't mean the mills. I mean like where you would go to buy dog collars and other things for your pet. Things like PetSmart, places like that. Or, of course, your local shelters or anything like that. Get the rescues. And I will tell you this. You will never know love like the love you get from a rescue pup. I've still got my little Frodo. He's 15 years old. We rescued him when he was 2 back in 2011. He's old, he's cranky, he's crotchety. He's gone deaf, he's gone blind, his hips don't work right. But he's still our loving little puppy. Now let's see, back to Plato Theory of Forms. Yeah, okay. Giovanni Gentile, creator of Italian fascism. All right, thank you for a great discussion. It was amazing. Yeah, thank you, Checkmate. Thank you to everyone who chatted, finding Zen over on Rumble, keeping us alive over there. And who did we have here? We had Executioner, we had Connor Seymour, we had a bunch of people. Thank you so much. We'll see you next month, and hopefully then people will be able to join me in the voice chat, because you hear what happens when it's just me. And I have to keep this going by myself. But thank you so much. I had a good time. I hope you did too. Until next time, stay strong and be free.